Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cardano Community Podcast featuring Stakepool WEQNT. Today's news flash, we want to take a look at just a little bit deeper at El Salvador and them adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, basically, this means that Bitcoin will become a national currency. So, we covered this article previously already, but today I just want to go a little bit deeper into this. Secondly, we want to look at an article, a very interesting article that came out earlier this week about NBC declaring Cardano as the most significant proof of stake blockchain in the whole entire cryptoverse. And lastly, let's see what Elon Musk is up to again. Because, yeah, obviously, whatever he does, it makes the news. So, without further ado, let's get into this. So, just recently, the El Salvador government have announced that they will be adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. And the thing, I mean, we covered this article previously already, but I figured, hey, it's worth actually going a little bit deeper into this article because obviously, it's still making the news. So what happened is the young president of El Salvador, his name is Najib Bukele. He's actually 39 years old. I'm not sure if he's the youngest president ever, but for sure he is a very young president. He's 39 years old, right? He's actually a millennial. So just recently I was having this very interesting conversation with an older guy. He's like in his 70s. And we had this conversation about the old boys network. And then somehow the conversation kind of like, turned to El Salvador, who's adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. And throughout that conversation, we kind of came to the conclusion that, hey, if this was an older president, something like this would never have happened. You see, because the thing is, right, it seems like the well-established older generation, they tend to be kind of like, let's say, stuck in a particular system. Or perhaps throughout their career, they have built, let's say, a network of very wealthy, influential people, right? And it's not in their interest to look at new technologies, especially technologies that will disrupt, current systems. So anyhow, El Salvador's president, he's 39 years old, very young guy, so I'm pretty much sure that he goes along with his time, and his peers, so let's say he will be very, very well be interested in new modern ways of, let's say, governing systems, and blockchain, of course, is part of that, right? So um, when I heard the news, I said, okay, wait a second. I have to look a little bit more about this guy. And that's how I kind of like find out. He's 39 years old. He's well, let's say, well informed about what Bitcoin is. So in the article, it says here, besides acting as a store of value, a type of digital gold, as some have called it, Bitcoin digital gold. Bitcoin exists entirely outside of the traditional banking system. El Salvador's central bank cannot print more Bitcoin, nor can its government stop a transaction from happening. This is exactly why many governments around the world oppose of Bitcoin, because they can't control it. And that's the whole thing basically of, let's say, working on regulations. Regulations is just a way of saying, okay, wait a second, let's come up with all sorts of laws for us to try and see if we can control a system, right? But the thing is with Bitcoin, the thing is with blockchain and cryptocurrencies in general, you cannot control that. It's outside of a system. I mean, of course, you can put laws in place, for the parties who work or, let's say, offer services, but the whole system, you cannot control the whole system. It's impossible. Anyhow, let's read on just a little bit further before we go on to the next article. It says, it's easy to see why some governments have moved to ban or severely restrict Bitcoin. Let's take China as an example. China is chief among them. It's also easy to see why people in poorly managed countries have had little choice but to use Bitcoin to get by. Venezuela, for instance, have one of the highest Bitcoin adoption rates in the world because hyperinflation has destroyed its currency, right? So the point was well made. Cash is trash. If a substantial chunk of your household wealth is sitting in the bank. You're taking a huge risk. At Bitcoin 2021, someone hauled in a literal dumpster full of thousands of 50 Bolivar notes, many of which ended up being scattered across the conference grounds as if it was just litter. It was jarring to see attendees completely ignoring the paper money right under their feet. I mean, come on, it has no value. So let's read on just a little bit further. El Salvador might be the first to adopt Bitcoin, but I don't believe for a second that it will be the last. Politicians in other Latin countries, including Paraguay, Panama, and Brazil, have already expressed support for making the crypto legal tender. My gracious. Let me read that again. El Salvador may be the first to adopt Bitcoin, but I don't believe for a second it will be the last. Politicians in other Latin American countries, including Paraguay, Panama, and Brazil, have already expressed support for making the crypto legal tender. This is just the beginning. That is what is being said here. We're at the very first beginning to starting to see Bitcoin adoption on a much larger scale. For now, El Salvador is on the path to start mining its own Bitcoin. On Wednesday, President Bukele said he instructed the president of Lageo, the country's geothermal electrical company, to put up a plan to offer facilities for Bitcoin mining with very cheap, 100% clean, 100% renewable, zero emission energies from our volcanoes. Okay, you know what? I may not say more. It speaks for itself. This is the way forward. I remember in my previous video I mentioned that there will be more countries to follow. And now we see that there are other Latin American countries expressing their intentions to also make Bitcoin legal tender. I mean, now we're speaking in, let's say, only in Latin America, but I also truly believe that in time we will see several African nations do that as well, and also Eastern European nations. I am 100% convinced of that. And guess what? I mean, Bitcoin might have, let's say, win the race to this, but guess what? I also believe that Cardano will follow. We will see countries adopting Cardano as their legal tender. I'm 100% convinced of this as well. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, by the way, if you like our content and you'd like to support us, please delegate to Stakepool WEQNT. We are the only Cardano stake pool that provides free solar lighting to people living in rural desert areas in Africa. These are people who does not have any access to any, let's say, electrical source, their country's electrical source. So our stake pool makes sure that these people are granted solar lighting for their houses, for their children, and their families. A portion of our rewards and 100% of donation that we receive goes to purchasing those bulbs and then distributed by our partners there. Just recently we had a distribution. If you'd like to support us, thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on to the following article. NBC News. I mean, this is like one of the larger news networks within the US, right? NBC News declares Cardano the most significant proof of stake crypto in the entire cryptoverse. So what happened here is that they have done some research. Lately we've seen a lot of discussion about the amount of energy that is required to mine Bitcoins and other proof of work blockchains. So they've kind of like made this comparison between the different, let's say, consensus algorithms where you have proof of work and proof of stake. And what happened is they have came to the conclusion that Cardano, the way the blockchain is developed, the way, let's say, transactions are processed, the amount of energy that is required, let's say, to support the whole network, it is near to nothing. I mean, think of this. An entire financial system that requires the amount of energy that is equivalent to just 2 homes. That is ridiculous. A global financial system, just supported with the amount of energy equal to just 2 homes, 2 small family homes. That is what I call technology at its best. That is what I call energy efficient. And not only me, and not only the whole Cardano community was saying this for years, but now we see news networks actually picking up on this, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to mention that as well, because this is definitely great news to see news networks like CNBC cover Cardano, or yeah, say such great and lofty things about Cardano. I love that. Elon Musk. Okay, so Elon Musk have been making the news again recently. As you guys know, a couple of months ago, his company expressed that they would be accepting Bitcoin as a payment, for purchasing Tesla's electrical cars. The moment that he actually tweeted about this and that news went public, we saw that had a very positive effect, on the price of Bitcoin. But um, after many, let's say, governments and many different news articles came out on the internet, that Bitcoin was actually requiring too much energy to sustain its network. Elon Musk kind of like, he had a change of heart. So he said, wait a second, you know what? Because Bitcoin requires so much energy to sustain its network, to process transactions. Um, you know what? We don't want to be part of that. We don't want to be part of a system that's kind of like working on the downfall of our planet. So he decided, okay, you know what? We will not be accepting Bitcoin any longer as a um, payment method for our cars. And then just about a week and a half ago, there was this other articles, that came out, and there were certain, that's a very influential peepers on some podcasts and news networks. They gave some interviews and actually gave some very good understanding that uh, Bitcoin mining have actually become very greener compared to, let's say, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's 50% greener compared to 5, 6, 7 years ago. And so what they actually did was they said, okay, um, let's try to see if we can extrapolate that. So that would mean basically if we continue to work and make Bitcoin mining more efficient and energy efficient, that would mean that in a X amount of years, Bitcoin would require about say 60 to 70% less energy to sustain its network compared to 5, 6 years ago. So what Elon Musk did, he said, okay, wait a second. So if that's the case, then no, what the heck? Let's start accepting Bitcoin again, then, as a means of payment for our cars. There you have Elon Musk again in the news, changing his mind on Bitcoin. Now, I must say it did have a positive effect, on the price of Bitcoin, because now we see that, after the news have come out, Bitcoin price again increases, and it's kind of like, create this overall positive sentiment where people, investors, feel like, okay, wow, there's more hope for Bitcoin. Um, and now we see a kind of like a positive sentiment, which is good. It also has effect for the whole crypto market in general, because we see prices overall are up, right? And that's a good thing. But I do have to say, despite the fact, that Elon Musk is a influential person, and many people look to him, for guidance and um, advice, when and what to buy. I really do want to warn every single investor that not to base your decision on something or a tweet or an idea or an opinion of one person. Um, Elon Musk has an agenda. He has a company. He's only in it for the profit. He's really not in it, for the tech. He's not in it, for because he wants to make you better or me better. Elon Musk is in it for himself. So I said it in my previous article. Do not sell him your Bitcoin. Do not sell him your crypto. Right? Because the thing is, when he tweets something negative about Bitcoin, he knows the price will go down. He knows there will be a massive sell-off. He knows that it will have effect on the price, right? So, and that would be enough reason for him to start buying. So the thing is, who is the one who's actually benefiting from him tweeting? It's not you and me. It's him. So I just want to end this episode with that little warning. Please do your own research. Do not follow Elon Musk. Do not follow his advice. If possible, even unfollow him from Twitter, right? Because the more of us unfollow him, the less attention he's given. Thank you guys again for joining in today. Remember, we hope that you'll consider delegating to Stakepool WEQNT and work together with us to change lives. Thank you very much.